Hello again. This is part 2 of a video series I was doing about surviving abuse. And earlier I did a video addressing being addicted to chaos, and I wanted to break it up because I did a longer video and it just wouldn't upload onto YouTube. But I'm sitting here in this beautiful Florida evening. Sun's going down, and I wanted to go ahead and try to finish a little bit. And I wanted to let you know my name is Amelia, and I go by the Goodbye Girl. And there's a story behind that, and sometime I will share that with you. But I'm going to jump right in. Being addicted to chaos, and I had addressed earlier on my first video about that coming from an abusive background, we get addicted to chaos because that feels more comfortable. As crazy as that might seem, at least it did for me. It's like putting on an old pair of shoes, even though they might look ratty and beat up and even have a hole in them. We're comfortable, they're what we know, they fit our feet perfectly, but it's time to buy a new pair. Chaos is addictive like a drug, and it is comfortable when that's the environment you come from. And for a lot of years I picked relationships and got into situations that perpetually kept me in chaos. And anytime that I was alone or didn't have that chaos, I just didn't feel comfortable. But you can get to a place in your life where you learn how to be out of chaos and in a more peaceful and stable situation in your life. And I know a lot of people, when you're in chaos, you may not even realize that you have a problem or that you're addicted to it or why you would be. It's also a distraction, as I said in my first video, from pain and things that we don't want to deal with sometimes. I was in situations most of my life. As a child, I was innocent, I couldn't help it, but one incident that I can pluck out is one night my mother and her cohort, her boyfriend that she had for 3 years, were in one of their legendary drunken fights. I was 11 and I probably weighed about 80 pounds, 75 pounds, and he began to beat her. And I mean, not shoving, pushing, I mean with a fist. He was a very large man. And I tried to get out of the apartment, and he stopped what he was doing with her, and somehow I fell against the neighbor's door right across the hall, and he picked me up by my hair, literally off of the ground, and threw me into the apartment. And it was that old 70s green carpet, and I had scars to this day on my knees from that. I tried to get out twice that night and had that happen to me twice, and no one came to help. And my mother was laying on the floor unconscious, and he was kicking her, and I was in my room terrified, trying to figure out what to do, thinking, we're gonna die. And I had socks in my hand and I had a nightgown on, and he told me, he got really close to me in my face and said, "You get your mother and you get yourself out of my house, or I'm going to kill you both. Okay, I'm 11. I had seen a lot, been through a lot up to that point, but I was terrified, absolutely terrified. And meanwhile, my mom's on the floor unconscious, and I have no idea how I'm going to fix this. And the next thing I knew, my mother was up on her feet. And my mother wore very thick glasses all of her life. She had very bad vision, and her glasses had been knocked off of her face, and there were broken bits of things everywhere. And she went to this aluminum metal cabinet we had the drawer came open, and I heard it, and it was filled with knives, and I was terrified. And I ran to the door again, trying to get out, and in my memory I remember just looking in slow motion, thinking someone is going to die, and it's probably going to be my mother. And I watched her come at him with the biggest knife that we had. And she was about 5'4", and he may have been like 6'2". And he stopped her from stabbing him in the heart. I escaped at that point, and I ran, and I banged until the neighbor finally opened the door. And I called my grandmother, because back then there was no 911. And I said, "Grandma, help. This is what's happened." My grandmother called the police. The police came, and they made him leave for the night. And that's all that happened, because this was in the 70s. And I remember after being so afraid, I remember being so furious at him. And my mother being on the phone and being black and blue and talking to her girlfriend. And I'm picking up broken glass. I'm doctoring my knees. This is utter chaos. This is trauma. This is a little girl feeling powerless and afraid for her life and her mother's life. So for years I lived and had bad relationships and chaotic things. I kept that going, and it was extremely damaging to my children. You know, I regret so much as a mom. My kids seen and heard a lot of things and went through a lot of things. All of that carried over into my life. But with chaos and distracting yourself from the pain and things, we can never change what we don't acknowledge. And if you're not ready to do that, that's okay. You do things in your own time. But if there are things that are bothering you, write them down. If you're afraid somebody will read it, write them down, take them outside, burn them. Talk to a professional. If you have a family member or a friend that you trust with your life, and make sure that you can trust them, talk to them. It's okay. You need that support. I'm going to cut this video short because it is almost 9 minutes long now, and I would love to say more, but I would encourage you to write some things down, to practice being on your own and sitting in a peaceful place like this, outside somewhere, or sitting alone with yourself, and practice being at peace and removing some of the chaos out of your mind and out of your life, and thinking about what might be causing you to be addicted to chaos. And feel free to comment. I will respond, I promise you. I'm doing this for you. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. That will help me, because I have a lot of stuff, and This is for me to share my story because I want to help. I care. And remember, you're worthwhile. The world's a better place because you're here, even if you feel invisible. You are not. And I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.